Hi, I'm Rev Myron. I'm a minister through Pathways of Light, and I've been a Course in Miracles student for over 40 years. I'm going through the course again this year, asking Jesus for clarity as I read, and then I write from that clarity, and that's what I'm sharing with you today. So let's get started. We're still in chapter 11, reading from A Course in Miracles, and we're just starting section 6, Waking to Redemption. And we're going to read the first two paragraphs today. Paragraph 1 tells us, it is impossible not to believe what you see, but it is equally impossible to see what you do not believe. Perceptions are built on the basis of experience, and experience leads to beliefs. It is not until beliefs are fixed that perceptions stabilize. In effect, then, what you believe, you do see. That is what I meant when I said, blessed are ye who have not seen and still believe. For those who believe in the resurrection will see it. The resurrection is a complete triumph of Christ over the ego, not by attack, but by transcendence. For Christ rises above the ego and all its works and ascends to the Father and his kingdom. Wow, what a thought, huh? Looking forward to that, aren't you? I see suffering and I see death, and it is impossible for me to stop seeing this as long as I believe in them. There's no point in trying to see this differently in the way I used to do. When I would see someone suffering and feel bad for them, I would try to see it differently. I would talk to myself about this not being the truth. I would tell myself that they are not the body and that is suffering, but these were just words, and all they could do was push the truth further down from my awareness because there was no healing in that process. Here is how it's different now. When I see suffering, I don't try to talk myself into seeing it differently. This only caused me to feel guilty and afraid when it didn't work. Without that judgment, I just noticed that my mind is not healed, and so I ask for healing. Over the years, I've done this many times, and I've learned that this prayer is always answered. I may not accept it fully the first time I ask, but even a little willingness changes the way I see it. Eventually, I formed a new habit of asking that my perceptions be healed and accepting that healing. These new perceptions became stable after a while, and now there are many wrong-minded thoughts that show up in my mind, and I just don't believe them. No matter what my eyes show me or the ego mind believes, I'm never confused about them. This success has motivated me to continue my practice. Everything I see in the world and all my interpretations of what I see are based on my perceptions. My perceptions tell me what I want to believe, and I see what I want to be true. Perceptions are not the truth, but simply a choice made according to the experience I want. This in itself was hard to believe at first, but my practice has proven to me that it's true. I can change my mind at any time, and I do this through the Holy Spirit. I share with him the way I see something now, and I ask him to heal my perception to show me what it is, what's really happening. And it is that simple. If it takes time for acceptance to kick in, then I'm patient with myself. I can afford to be patient because I have absolute faith in the outcome. So let's see what paragraph 2 says. Would you join in the resurrection or the crucifixion? Would you condemn your brothers or free them? Would you transcend your prison and ascend to the Father? These questions are all the same and are all answered together. There has been much confusion about what perception means because the word is used both for awareness and for the interpretation of awareness. Yet you cannot be aware without interpretation, for what you perceive is your interpretation. I really understand and accept that ascendance is done with my brothers, and my salvation is dependent on theirs. It makes no sense to condemn them when I remember that their condemnation is mine. I understand this, yet I see judgmental thoughts in my mind, and sometimes I'm attracted to them. This attraction happens when I take the world seriously. The world is not real, it is a fantasy. I can learn to watch it without believing it. I think this is being in the world without being of it. I know I can do this because often I do. I just have not reached the place where I do it all the time. When I believe in the world, I feel trapped, and my anger and fear and guilt seem so real and so justified. Then, in a holy instant, I join with love, and the world seems unimportant, and my past actions vaguely ridiculous. More and more often, I choose to notice a desire to project guilt and instead simply ask for healing. The desire to project might continue for a while, but having asked, I am answered, and soon I will have lost interest in finding someone to blame. And then once in a while, I get lost in the ego separation story. I forget that guilt is impossible, or I get tired of looking at the same errors over and over and feel momentarily discouraged. The ego loves it when this happens because when I'm back, then I'm back fully engaged in its story. Here's what I do. I turn away from the story. When I first started this practice, it felt hard because I had given it my attention and my mind was still too untrained not to fall into old habits. But I'm not this ego mind, and I'm not controlled by it. A habit is a learned behavior, not a power outside my control. I simply chose not to be caught in the ego web of deceit. I asked for help, and I was answered. I'm always answered. If I could, I would sit for a while in quiet. I might have listened to the course or read an inspiring book, or I would look up my favorite teachers on Facebook or YouTube. Another helpful practice was to remember that the peace of God is everything I want and that I will not compromise. Or maybe I'll just start smiling to myself and smiling at others. I would do what it took to break the cycle of old thinking. The Holy Spirit will answer my prayer for help according to my willingness, and sometimes I need to renew that willingness. I needed to decide again what it was that was so important to me. So I remembered that I wanted to wake up and that I wanted my brothers to wake up with me. I decided this was all I wanted, everything I wanted. Then, when an old thought appeared, one I thought I had rejected, I looked at it again in light of my new choice. In this way, I learned to master my decision. Now it's a simpler process, and I don't need so much help getting to peace if I lose it to an ego story. I'm convinced in my desire to awaken, completely convicted, and so I don't often make a choice that takes me away from that desire. When I do choose worry or frustration to become part of my day, I just start over. I choose again. Choosing to have a day of peace and happiness is so ingrained that it's my default. Losing that peace and happiness is jarring, and so I seek its return quickly. This is so different than the way I used to live. I am beyond grateful for A Course in Miracles. I'm grateful to the Holy Spirit for healing my mind, and grateful to myself for being willing to do the practice for as long as it takes. Thank you so much for joining me in this reading. I hope that you found it helpful. If you did, then please like it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. And I'll be back soon with another reading. See you then.